Thank you, and a warm Highlander welcome to Louise Arseneault. Thank you, Tammy. And I would like to start by saying thank you to Steve also, and thank you to the director, Martin. I appreciate you guys, and thank you again for having me here. So, how is everybody today or this morning? Good. Yeah, that's pretty good. I think we do better. I think we can wake people up a little bit. How is everybody this morning? Good. That's better. Well, thanks again for having me. So today's topic of discussion is resiliency and overcoming obstacles. Like Tammy said, I'll be talking a little bit about my trajectory, about my journey as a person, and I want to make sure that I can relate that to you guys and encourage you guys also to pursue your dreams as we journey together through this presentation. So, let's get going. Like Tammy said, I am from Dunlop, New Brunswick, a little près d'en haut, as she mentioned, right? I went to school, graduated in 2007 from high school. After that, I signed a 4-year contract to a university out of Alabama. So raise your hand right off the bat if you know where Alabama's at. Yeah, all right. So let's take a little trip. All the way down to Alabama. So 4 years there, played collegiately, studied athletic training there. Have a couple of pictures for you of my playing career as an athlete there. All right. After 4 years, that was a little quick, I'm sorry. Let me go back. There we go. A couple of pictures here. There we go. I want to share with you guys a little bit of an opportunity almost missed. Which kind of ties in a little bit with our topic today. So in 2000, I graduated from college 2011. I went to grad school in Mississippi. Anybody can spell Mississippi for me? Anyone? I've heard a couple of people. Spell backwards, there you go, good. Very good, yeah, M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I-P-P-I. That's where I did my master's degree. My second year there in 2012, I decided that I've always wanted to play professional soccer, always. But in 2012 and throughout my career, throughout the seasons, I also played semi-professionally across the U.S. So I got to play in New York, in New Jersey, in Maine, in Michigan. Those were summer leagues where I got to kind of go and play and stay with residential families and participate there. And then after I graduated and I went to grad school, a friend of mine contacted me, a former teammate from college, and she said, hey, would you like to play another season with me? And I was like, I would love to. Where do you want to go? And she said, California. I said, okay, let's do it. So I started doing some research, and I found a bunch of teams out of California, which I emailed. We sent our resumes in, our little promo video, etc. And a team got back to us, and I was like, great, let's do it. This was out of San Francisco, California. So here we are, we book our flights, we're all the way, we're flying at this point, we're in Texas. We get to Texas, we have a 6-hour layover of some sort, you know. And she does some research online and she says, wait, what's the name of this team again? And I said, it's called the Bay Area Breeze. And she starts looking it up and she says, are you kidding me? And I was like, what's the problem? She goes, this is a professional team. And I said, a what? She said, a professional team. I was like, oh my God. I was like, we can't go. She's like, you're right, we can't go. And here we are, you know, sitting in the airport in Houston, Texas, on our way halfway to our destination, and we're already backing out. And I said, you know what, we're halfway through. And I was like, let's go and test it out, let's go try out. And I said, worst comes to worst, right? We go back home and that's it. We can measure ourselves to where we are against those players, right? She says, you know what, you're right, we're already here, let's do it. Okay, cool. I get all the way to San Francisco, try it out, come back home, 1 week goes by, 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go by, nothing. Next thing you know, we get a phone call, right? Louise Arseneault, just want to congratulate you. You've just been assigned your first professional contract, right? And there's a lesson in here that I want to talk to you in a little bit, but that was an opportunity almost missed for me. So here we are, all the way from Mississippi, Alabama, going all the way to California. So the lesson in here, which I've learned, and I want to relay on to you, is that it's not who we are that holds us back, but it's who we think we're not. And what do I mean by that, right? So did I and did my friend have absolutely all the physical capabilities of going and trying out, yes or no? Yes. Yeah, right? So what stopped us? What do you think? What made us want to turn around in Houston?
Your fear of not making it.
Yeah, your fear of not making it. Very good answer. What else? Anybody else?
Let's go.
Okay. So what are we afraid of? What was I afraid of? What's another word for a fear of not making it?
Rejection.
What was it?
Rejection.
Rejection. Very good. Fear of rejection. Now, what's another word for rejection?
Failure.
Failure. What else? It's a two-letter word, starts with N.
No.
No. Yeah, we're afraid of no, okay? So, by being afraid of no, let's talk about this for a second. What's the worst that can happen to us if we hear the word no? Do we physically die?
No.
We don't.
Almost.
Right? We don't physically die. Does your house catch on fire? No, right? So what's the worst that can happen to us? Nothing. Nothing really happens. The only thing that we have to deal with is sometimes bear the pain of embarrassment, right? That's us. That's on us. So what I've learned then, and I learned then, but I only learned a lesson in the last 2 or 3 years. This is how I saw it written, and I thought it was so important, and I want to impress that upon you guys, is that no is not a rejection, right? It's a redirection. And if we start looking at the answer no that way, we start reassessing our lives, right? We start reassessing our decisions, and we try again, and we try, and we try, and we try again, right? And here's where I want to imply or introduce to you guys the concept of resiliency as well. Okay? So what is resiliency? Resiliency is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. So without knowing, right, without really knowing, let me back up just a little bit. So this is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. So oftentimes when we hear the word no, we think that our lives are over, right? And we turn around, and sometimes we move around, and we think, what am I going to do? I didn't get what I wanted. And sometimes we stop because we don't want to hear the word no again, right? But resiliency is the capacity to being able to bounce back from that. And as an example from that, for me, I was feeling good. I went to this tryout, I made the team, excellent. The next year, I went and tried out again. I was like, oh, I'm a returning player. I got this. Different mindset. Came in, went to tryouts, didn't make the team. Okay, what happened? What changed? Was I worse as a player? I didn't think so. I thought it was better, right? Call the coach. It was a different coach. I called the coach and I was like, hey, what feedback can you give me? What can I do to get better? Never heard an answer. Okay. Didn't feel very good about that, right? Didn't really feel good about that at all. But here's the deal. I decided at that point to recover quickly. So instead I started working harder. Because my ultimate goal was to play professionally in Europe. Not necessarily in California, but in Europe. So for the next 2 years, I wanted to dedicate my life or dedicate my training to becoming a good professional soccer player or have the caliber to go play abroad. 2 years came by, came and gone, nothing. Third year, nothing. It was only until it was 2016 that I first landed my first professional contract. Resiliency, right? So back here we are in Canada. I signed my first contract as a professional athlete, and I flew all the way to Finland, out of all places. And I played there for 1 full year, had 1 season there. I want to share with you guys a few pictures of that. Got it. So here we are. This right here, after 4 years of training, this was my first goal as an international athlete on the international plane, right? Very different experience, very similar weather than here, actually, a lot of snow. So we trained in a dome for about 3-4 months. And when season actually came, they kind of like used this like snow blower to blow the field. And there was like snowbanks on the side. So I kind of played in this like makeshift patch of grass, which is kind of cool. And then the field got much better as it went. But following this here, had the opportunity to go travel with my brother. So I convinced my brother to do a 26-day backpacking trip through Europe. So I wanted to share a few pictures with you guys of my journey as well. So Italy, Switzerland, did some, right here, paragliding. Anybody want to paraglide in their lives? Yeah, anybody want to skydive? Yeah, all right. Skydiving is fun. I've done that twice. Very good. England here, more a little bit of Italy of traveling. This is not Europe. I want to throw a couple of pictures in there as well. Ice climbing in Alaska. This is Europe. This is Kotor, Montenegro, and obviously a big landmark of the United States. Egypt, and then this is my backpack. I think this is my prized possession. When this is full, I think part of my life will be semi-complete, and then I'm going to buy myself another bag. So every patch represents a country that I've visited, and if it's something, and raise your hand if anybody wants to go travel. Yeah, anybody have the desire to actually backpack Europe as well? Very cool, very cool. I strongly suggest you do. If you have the opportunity, do it. So back to lessons. Okay, I want to talk about my first novel a little bit, and what an obstacle and how an obstacle can become an opportunity. So in 2016, when I was playing in Finland, the Finnish language is something out of this world, something very, very complicated, and it's only spoken in Finland. So there's absolutely no use for me to learn the entire language, because all I needed to do is learn a few words to be able to communicate with my teammates on the field, plus they spoke English. But to give you an example of the magnitude of what this language actually looks like, is the word simple in Finnish is said yksinkertainen. Yeah, yksinkertainen. So, there's no way my brain was able to physically learn the whole language in 1 year. So I learned a few words, and then I discovered that I had a lot of free time as an athlete, as a professional athlete. There's only so many times in the day you can work out, and there's only so many times that you can kind of practice. So I'm a reader, I like to read. So I went to the library and I took out a library card and I started reading the English section of the library. But that was very, very limited. So after I've exhausted those options, I decided that it was time to write my own book, because it was something that was on my bucket list, right? So I sat down, my goal was to write 500 words a day. Started writing, and after 5 or 6 months, my book was complete, right? Not complete in terms of like editing and what the cover was gonna look like and that, but the content of the book was completed, right? I did not know that this was the book that I was gonna end up with. In terms of content, I started with a different title, I wanted to go a different direction, but this kind of manifested itself through, right? So I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about the story of the book, because I think it's very relevant to the subject that we're here for today. So in 2003, I was 14 years old. I was traveling from Moncton, from here, all the way to British Columbia to visit my aunt, okay? This was a solo trip. I was 14, I just turned 14. I just made the mandatory age cutoff, didn't have to have a flight attendant fly with me. So on the way back, I had a layover in Hamilton, right? Anybody heard of a blackout? It's not the one, yeah. It's where this one is the one where electricity, goes out. All right, yeah. Just to make that clear all across the board. So, I was flying back from British Columbia, and I had a layover in Hamilton, and next thing you know, there was a big blackout. So 55 million people were affected, no electricity in a blink of an eye, right? And I was caught in that at 14. Back then, by the way, we didn't have any cell phones. Crazy, I know, crazy for you guys to think about that. So how do you contact your mom? How do you contact your parents, right? So luckily for me, there was by an act of grace, a landline that kind of worked, and I was able to contact my parents and let them know, like, hey, I'm stuck here. My mom was like, wait, what? And there's this family that kind of came and approached me, and they said, hey, do you want to stay with us? Do you want to kind of like ride this out with us? And I said, sure, right? Crazy, I know. But I told my mom, I was like, I'm staying with this family. And my mom said, who, what's your name? And I literally turned around and I said, what's your last name? And this lady told me her last name, and I was able to relate to my mom. I'm telling you this because back then, that looked like a huge obstacle, right? Had absolutely no idea that 16 years later, that was the content that I was going to use to write my book. So whatever you're going through right now that seems like an obstacle, right? However we look at it, however we perceive it, maybe further down the line, it becomes an opportunity, right? And immediately, sometimes, it's an opportunity to be nice, to be kind, an opportunity to perceive something a different way, right? And for me, no idea, again, no idea. 16 years later, I just published it in June, right? 16 full years. Sometimes opportunities come when we're patient. Something to consider, right? With that, I wanted to introduce the subject of the law of relativity, and I think that that could be very well applied to everybody's lives as well. So, has anybody heard of the law of relativity? Anyone? Okay. So, this is where we interact a little bit. In your opinion, is this circle big or small?
Medium.
Medium is not an answer.
No.
Okay, good. So raise your hand if you think the circle is big. Okay, raise your hand if you think the circle is small. Okay, good. Now let's, option number two. Option number two. Big or small, not medium, I don't want to hear it. Raise your hand if you think it's big. Good, raise your hand if you think it's small. Okay. Now, if I do this. Oops. Hey. If I do this, okay? Now, do we think this one is big, yes or no? Obviously, this one is small. Yeah? And now you kind of saw a sneak peek. But now, what do you think? What about this one? Is it big or small?
Medium.
Ah, there cannot be a medium. Okay, medium. This one is super small. And this one would be considered what?
Big.
Big. Okay? Now, if I do this, which one is big, which one is small? The red one is big, right? And the other one is small. Now, how many times in that 30 seconds did you change your mind about the sizes of the circle?
10 times.
4, 5, 6 times?
12 times.
Right? Okay? So this is where the law of relativity comes in. Because whatever the situation is, whatever the size of the circle is, it just is. It's neither big nor small. Something becomes big or small when we compare it with something else. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So for us in life, when you perceive a situation as being bad, right? When you perceive it as being bad, what do you think you're doing? What do you think you're doing on this scale right here? So this is your situation. Your situation is medium, okay? If you compare it to something bigger, right, then your problem looks smaller. If you compare it to something that's smaller, then your problem looks bigger. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. But how many times do we do this? This is us. And then whatever else in the world is this. And our test or our study or whatever looks like this. It actually kind of looks like this.
Yeah,
but for the sake of this representation, we're going to make it look like this. So how many times does that happen? Raise your hand. How many times do we do that? Be honest. Let's go. Raise your hand. Come on. Everybody's hand should almost be up. Okay, good. Thank you for the 5 of you that were honest. The rest of you, we all know that this is how you perceive your problems. Okay? Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Very, very important for us to change our perception. The more we change our perception, right, like the way we look at something, when we change the way we look at something, what we look at changes. Okay? And we did that right here. We changed the way we looked at the circle, and the size of the circle changed. Okay? Something for you guys to consider. Something for you guys to kind of, I would love for it to be impressed on you so that way we can tackle life, tackle obstacles, tackle tests a little bit better, right, as we grow and as we mature through life. So, moving on. Wanted to talk to you guys about what attitude actually was. Anybody know what attitude is? And by the way, in order for us to be able to perceive something, right, as bigger or smaller, we have to have a, what do you think? Okay, so if you want to perceive your problem as something being small, does your attitude have to be negative or positive? Positive, yeah. If you're seeing your problem as something that is huge, is your attitude good or bad or positive, negative? Yeah. Okay, good. Good job. Everybody's awake this morning. Very good. Okay, so what is attitude? Can anybody tell me what attitude is? What is it? Your outlook. Very good. Anybody else? Other than outlook. If you're talking, that means you have something to say to me, and I will call on you. All of a sudden, you can hear a pin drop. Anybody else know what an attitude is, or how you can describe an attitude, or just define? Anybody? What is it? Your mindset. Very good. Very good. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, very good. The way you choose to look at something. Excellent. Okay, very good. So for me, the best definition I've found so far of attitude is that attitude is the composite of your thoughts, your feelings, and your action. Okay, the composite of all three. What do I mean by that? Let's look at it in a different way. Piece of cake, I know. How does cake relate to attitude? That's not a question, actually. But, anybody baked a cake before? Has anybody baked a cake before? Very good. Anybody baked cookies before? Come on, come on. Thank goodness. Woo! All right. Okay, good. So what goes into baking a cake or baking cookies? Eggs. What else?
Flour.
Flour. What else? Sugar. What else? Very good.
Love.
Love?
Yeah.
I like it.
You gotta say it louder. That was
good. Good, yes. Very good. Very good. Nuts, I like it. Bacon soda, somebody? Water? Okay. I heard love somewhere earlier, that was nice. Okay, all right. Okay, but what are those things, right? So those are components. Those are components. So, if I say to you, and you bake this cake or this cookie, and I take a bite of the cake, and I'm like, oh my God, that was such good flour. Do we say that?
Nope.
I don't say that. Oh my God, that was such good sugar. Thank goodness, thank God you used that one. Right? Do we say that? And what do we say? We say that's good cake. That is good, that's a good cookie, right? But what is cake and what are cookies? Cakes and cookies are the composite of what we listed earlier. Sugar, eggs, flour, all of those. Those are components, right? Same thing goes with attitude. Right? Our attitude is a composite of our thoughts, our feelings, and our action. When somebody has a bad attitude, you don't say, oh my God, I cannot believe this person has negative thoughts. Don't say that. Oh my God, I cannot believe this person's feelings are hurt. You don't say that. Right? We say, my God, that person has a stinky attitude. Right? Or use of different words. Whatever high schools say nowadays. Okay? So we want to make sure that, here's the thing though, thoughts, feelings, and action, they're all interconnected. So the way we think, right, affects how we feel, and how we feel affects how we act, right? So how many times do you have a test to study for, and you're super stressed, and you're thinking about, oh my God, what if I fail? By the way, which we shouldn't be thinking that way, but we think, what if I fail? All of a sudden you start thinking, failure, failure, failure. How does that make you feel? It makes you feel crappy. And all of a sudden your mom says, hi honey, and you're like, don't talk to me. What happened? She didn't do anything, right? You started that sequence of events, right? It started with your thoughts, then went down to your feelings, and that's how we're acting. Okay? Something to think about. Now my question to you is, technical difficulties. Okay, how can we change your attitude? Does anybody know how we can change your attitude? Yeah. Always trying to look for the positive. What else? Very good. Anybody else?
Oh, Noah's
Anybody? Come on. There's 800 of you in here. Somebody's got to know. Okay, cool.
Change your mindset.
Can you use, very good, change your mindset. Can you stand up and use like your really good inside voice? I want to hear all the way from here. Yeah?
That's so embarrassing.
Shh. Hey guys, shh. Sorry, can you say that again? Some of your peers were talking. Yeah. Okay, good. So did everybody kind of hear that? Very good. Good answer. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else know how we can change our attitude? Yeah? Yeah. Change your perspective. Very good. Excellent. Anything else? Another word for perspective? Drink more water.
Yeah, Noah!
Yeah, Noah! Perfect. All right, I think we're taking a little bit of a trip in a direction that we're not supposed to go. Okay, let's bring it back to a little bit more serious. So we talked about a few things, but one of the main words that I was looking for, mindset was a good one, right? And another word for mindset, or something else that we can use in correlation to mindset, is the word focus. Okay, so what we focus on, so basically our thoughts, right? So our thoughts. When we can change our thoughts, that changes our feelings, that changes our action. Essentially, that affects our whole attitude. And what do I mean by that? We're going to do a little bit of a test. Okay, we're going to do a bit of a test. So for the next 5 seconds, your attention is going to be fully over here, not to your peers, right? And for the next 5 seconds, I'm going to ask you guys to look in the crowd. And professors and teachers, I invite you also to try this out. So we're going to look around, and I want you guys to find every single thing that is, let's say, blue. Go. Look for blue. Anywhere. Look for blue. Look for blue. Shh, shh, shh. Just look for it. Don't voice it out. Don't voice it out. Look for blue. Look for blue. Look for blue. 3, 2, 1, and time. All right. Have a seat. Now look over here at me. Solely to me. Okay. I don't want to see peeping eyes when I ask you the next question. Solely over here. Raise your hand if you saw a lot of green. A lot of green? Yeah, okay. Some of you are colorblind.
Liars.
Okay, good. All right, now go ahead. Let's look for green. Go. Look again. Look for green. 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 3, 2, 1, and time. All right, cool. Look at me. Look at me and only at me. Raise your hand if you saw a lot of orange. Hey. Okay, cool. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. When I first asked you for blue, right? And when you were looking for blue, and I asked you, how much green did you see? A couple of hands went up. Does that mean, right, that the green was not present the first time when I asked you to look for blue? No. Okay. Then I asked you to look for green, correct? Did you see more green the second time when I asked you to look for green? Yeah. And what about when I said orange? Does that mean that the orange was not present, or the other one was not present? Yes or no?
No.
Right? The colors were always there. But what I called your attention to is what you saw more of. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when we're looking at something, and if we see something in a negative way, does that mean that the positive is not present? No. What do we need to do? We need to change our perspective. Change our perception. The law of relativity, we talked about that earlier. Right? Just because you see one, does that mean that the other, it does not mean that the other is not present. Something for us to consider, right? Something for us to really kind of hone in and to really adopt. So the lesson on this one, right? Kind of mentioned it earlier, but it's whatever you focus on, you see more of. Right? So whatever we think about, whatever you choose to focus on, you see more of. Okay, take another little spin. No pun intended, you guys are going to get it. All right, so here we are. This is a wheel of a car, okay? So I hop into the passenger seat and I said, and you're in the driver's seat. What's the first question you're going to ask me? Where are we going? Very good, very good. And I tell you, just drive, okay? So you start the car as a person. You start the car and you start driving, okay? Next thing you know, we hit an obstacle. And we're like, okay, fine. Let's turn around, let's go somewhere else. Sure. Go ahead, we hit a detour. You want to continue on this road? Sure, let's go. Do the detour, drive around. All right, eventually come over here. Oh man, because we've been driving for so long, we ran out of gas. Okay? So we stay there for a bit. Stay there for a bit, kind of hang out, decide, hey, let's call somebody, let's fill the car back up, and let's get going again. Perfect. We do that, start driving again. And we get to somewhere, no man's land. And next thing you know, we're like, hey, I really want to go here. Destination. Boom. Okay, what's the quickest way between A and B? Straight line. So here we are. Make that road trip. Excellent. We get to where we want to go. There's nothing wrong with this, right? This illustration, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. However, in real life, this here could have taken us 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. This here could have taken us 3 months, right? The illustration I want to portray with that is that if you don't have any goals for yourself, and if you don't have any dreams for yourself, you're going to spend some time driving aimlessly, hitting detours, hitting obstacles, right? And have absolutely no destination for yourself. You're going to waste some time. You guys told me earlier that the quickest way between A and B was a straight line, right? So do you think in order to have a straight line, you need to have a goal, yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. No? Somebody said no? Somebody thinks they're smart? Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm asking you, as students, as people, right, the same question you guys asked me when we first got into the car. Where are you going? Right? What do you want to do? For me, I wanted to be a professional athlete. Wasn't easy. Ran out of gas a few times, so I took some detours, right? Ultimately, that was my chief aim. Just because you have point A and point B, does it mean you're going to not hit obstacles, yes or no? Even if you have a goal, right, and that's your objective, are you still going to, in the midst of that, hit obstacles, yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. So if we reverse back, right, let's just say, let me go back here. All right. Go back here, obstacle was here. Hypothetically, right, if our destination was over here, would we have turned around to hit the detour, yes or no? No. We would have found a way to go over the obstacle, right? We would have saved some time. Same thing for you guys in life, right? We want to become resilient. The capability of being tough, of overcoming or bouncing back from something negative that's happening to us. Okay? Very important here. Something to consider as well. Things to note, right? Things to note for you guys. To successfully overcome obstacles, you need to know where you are going. This is very important. We need to know where we're going. And if we don't, like we talked about earlier, we're just kind of meandering into no man's land, wasting some time. Getting miles on the car, basically getting older, right? With no destination. Okay. Second thing we need to consider is what we believe about ourselves will determine our ability to overcome obstacles. So if we go back a little bit, ooh, I already said that, that's good. If we go back a little bit, we consider the story I told you guys about the airport in Houston, right? So for me, I did not think, So for me, what I thought about, I didn't think I was going to be good enough, right? When we talked about that, we kind of talked about how to go past that. When we talk about the book also, what we believe about ourselves will determine our ability to overcome obstacles. Sometimes we're put in a situation where those abilities, or what we believe about ourselves, are forced out of us. We're put in a situation where you don't have any other choice. So for me, I was 14 by myself, no other choice than to rely upon my own individual capabilities and what I've learned so far in my ripe years of 14. Okay? So raise your hand if some of you are 14 right now.
Neat.
Good. Okay. All right, let's bring it back. Let's move along a little bit. Again, very important here. What we believe about ourselves will determine our ability to overcome obstacles, okay? Okay, you guys ever heard of the study that was done by IKEA a couple years ago about the plants? Raise your hand if you've heard this story. All 6 of you? Good.
Good job, Pat.
Perfect. Okay, let's talk about it for a second.
Boy, Ella.
So IKEA made a study about, I think it was 4 years ago, and the idea, right, was to have 2 plants at the school. And the experiment was done over a 30-day period. And every day, I think it was at a middle school, every day students would come in and there's one plant that was being told positive things and one plant that was being told told negative things. So every day students would come in, plant that was being told negative things, would talk to them in a negative way. And then students would come again on the other one and talk positive to that person, or to the plant, pardon me. Okay. So let's talk about it. Stuff like you'll never amount to anything, no one believes in you, you're not talented, you'll never be successful, right? Why do you think, or who do you think you are? You're ugly, shh, guys. And this one, being positive comments. So we believe in you, you're beautiful, you can do it. You're an inspiration, and we are so proud of you, right? So what do you think the results were after 30 days? Sure. Okay, so raise your hand, I'll call on you, and you can stand up and use your really loud inside voice, or outside voice, I should say. What do you think happened to the plant? Anybody brave enough to have a guess?
People went to the negative.
Do what?
People went to the negative.
People went to the negative? Okay, raise your hand if you think that the plants remained the same over the course of 30 days. I think that's very fair. Anybody? Come on, raise your hand. You have a choice to make here. No mediums here. Okay? Raise your hand if you think that the plant looked not as nice as the first time, or as the original plant. Okay, so there's 15 hands that went up on the first question, and maybe like 7 on the second. The rest of you guys are neutral? You guys are the medium people? Okay? So, after 30 days, incredibly, these were the results. Bring it back. Got a question?
No, but...
You don't believe it?
Oh.
That's fine. You can choose not to believe it. You can go look at the studies that were made.
Oh.
Here's the thing. These plants are 70-80% water, kind of like us, right? We respond to energy. Plants respond to energy. When we talk about it, when we say things, we use energy in our words. That's why we feel stuff as people, right? This is what the plants look like when somebody else said those things. You suck. You're not pretty. I don't believe in you. Why are you even on my team? You don't belong here. You're stupid, right? This is what happened to this plant. This one was being said positive stuff. Hey, try again next time. I like you as a person. I like you as a teammate. Thanks for being my friend, right? And this is what happened to this plant here. Here's the thing. We are affected by other people's thoughts and other people's words. But imagine, now let's flip the switch and imagine how we talk about self-talk. Right? Change the we to I. I suck. I'm not good enough. I'm not beautiful. I'll never amount to anything. Right? This is what we're doing to ourselves. Okay? When we talk about positive self-talk, this is what positive self-talk looks like. And I mean, I'm not talking about like everything is so peachy and fun and fuzzy. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like, yeah, you make a mistake, but you know what? I'm better than my mistake. I'll do better next time. I can do this. This is not the end of the world. Changing your mindset, changing your resiliency, or applying resiliency. Right? This is what this looks like. This is healthy. This is not. I've done a presentation before where this kid, he was 12 years old, I think 11, he asked me the question and he said, can the plant that looks like this ever become like this again? What do you think the answer is?
Yes.
Yeah. The answer is yes. The answer is yes.
With love and care.
With love and care. Good.
Good job, Noah.
No, round of applause for Noah, guys. Okay, good. Yeah, but here's the thing. We're going to bring it back to serious. Yeah, the answer to this is absolutely yes. Is it going to happen overnight? No. Did this happen overnight? No. This was the result after 30 days. And here's the thing. Both plants were given the same amount of water, right? They were in the same protective casing, exact same thing, and they are 3 feet apart. 3 feet apart. Right? You can take this and bring it back to something that's more beautiful. To the eye, of course, right now, right? We're talking about eye. But this, you look at this makes you feel good. Because it's like, it's healthy, whatever. You look at this and you're like, oh, everybody's reaction was the same. Ooh. Right? It doesn't look good. And that's how sometimes people look from the inside. Right? People on the inside feel like that. They might look like this on the outside, but inside they're talking to themselves with, I suck, I'm never going to be anything, right? And that's what they're making themselves look on the inside. Right? Really important. Self-talk is really, 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 really important. Okay? So these are the plants outside of their casings. So the lesson here, right, is you can think negative, or you can think positive, or you can never think both at the same time. And I'm going to explain to you guys what that means in a second, okay? Essentially, what that means is for you to think negative or to think positive, you have to, in turn, close or ignore one of the options. It's impossible for you to think positive and negative at the same time. People often say to me, no, I can, look, I suck, I'm beautiful. Yeah, but it's not at the same time. And even in your head, you can't think 2 thoughts at the same time. They're one after the other, they're subsequent thoughts, right? Hey guys, pay attention please. Right? They're subsequent thoughts, but they cannot be both at the same time. And here's the deal. For you to think one, like I said earlier, you have to make a conscious effort, right, to shut off the other one. Conscious effort, or subconscious effort to be fair, because sometimes we're bombarded with negative stuff, right? But for you to think positive or to think negative, it's a choice, right? And oftentimes, we blame outside circumstances for how we feel, outside circumstances for how we act, outside circumstances for whatever else is happening in our lives. But these circumstances just are. Whether they're good or whether they're bad, we make it so. That's our choice. That's our law of relativity. We talked about it earlier, right? So there's a little fun story that was said, and somebody called someone and he's like, Bob, I have bad news for you. And Bob's response was, news is news. I'll decide whether or not the news is good or it's bad. Right? So now that person is taking responsibility for how they're feeling, not letting outside circumstances affect how they are feeling, right? And they're remaining in control. A lot of times, like I said, we're blaming outside circumstances for whatever is happening to us. We need to stop that. We need to start taking responsibility for where we are, for what we're doing, what our actions look like, and how we feel. And if we talked about those elements earlier, right, those are attitudes. So you're responsible for your attitude. And we talked about what those composites were. Okay? So again, the choice is yours. You're in control. What will you choose? Okay? Because not anybody else's choice, it's yours. Okay? Final thoughts, and we're going to open up for discussion. I want to hear from you guys and then have some additional questions as well. But final thoughts. Never underestimate the power of resilience, perspective, and a positive attitude. So for me, those were lessons that I had the opportunity to learn at a younger age, right? And it's brought me to where I was today. And now, I didn't learn that just by chance. I read a lot of books. I don't watch TV at all. I don't watch Netflix at all. I know, crazy. I'm human, I promise. Okay? I listen to podcasts. I don't listen to music. I train, nowadays I don't train with music at all. I train with earplugs. Because I don't want to hear what everybody else has to say when I'm working out. I want to hear music. I want to get in tune with my body so that my mental state can be, I can train. So like, for instance, I want you to do this. Before you do that, put your hands on your ears. I want you to breathe heavy. Go. Breathe heavy. Breathe heavy. Okay, good? All right. Good. So now if you're breathing heavy, now, do you hear yourself as loud as you had when you had your ears plugged? Yes or no? No. No. Okay, so for me, I train at this level so that I can compete without that sound. So I can push harder. Right? I don't have to hear myself breathe as heavy. I don't have to remind myself that I'm dying on the field. Okay? So things to think about. So never underestimate the power of resiliency, perspective, and a positive attitude. Never underestimate those. Embrace them. Learn about them. Use them. Okay? And remember, you're in the driver's seat of this trip called life. Okay? So again, I'm asking you the same question you asked me. Where are you going? Final thoughts? Anybody wants to follow me on Instagram? Email, whatever. But that's the end of the presentation, and we're going to open our questions. So thank you so much for your attention. I appreciate your time here. Thank you. Cool. Does anybody have any questions for me? I'm going to pass the mic on, and I'm going to take this one. Testing 1, 2.
So we have about 5 minutes. So if you have any questions about Louise's training, her adventures, her novel. A question over there?
Don't be shy, guys.
Do you want to say in the microphone? Sure you do. Here, pass this down.
I think it's possible to be positive and negative at the same time. Because
Okay.
I'm not the worst, but I'm like not the best either.
Okay.
And it's like, hey, at least I'm doing better than the worst person ever. But I mean, I'm not doing pretty good. So
you're one of those
there's
negative persons,
that.
what you're saying.
I'm saying that it's possible to be positive and negative at the same time, and I think that it's not correct to say otherwise.
Okay. So here's the thing.
So I think the question was, is it possible to somehow be positive and negative simultaneously?
So my answer, like I shared with you guys earlier, it is impossible, but I do appreciate your opinion, and I think that it's very respectful for all of us, even if we don't agree. This is a great topic of discussion. So be mindful in terms of there's no need to be woo because she's challenging me. She's not. She's asking a question. We're sharing opinions. This is what collaboration community looks like. This is healthy, right? So thank you again for your statement. I appreciate that. So for me, in my opinion, you're comparing yourself to, hey, I'm not doing as bad as this person, and I'm not doing as great as this person. So you think that that is considered thinking both right, positive and negative at the same time. Is that correct? Yes. Well, okay. So I can see where you're coming from, but I would have to disagree with that because here you are, 1 second you're saying, I'm not as bad as this person. Whew. And then here you are, you're saying, I'm better than this person. So at that point in time, you're not thinking both at the same time. You're adopting a happy medium, right, with where you are, but it's not necessarily a thought. Does that make sense? You're in a place where you're in the center of both, but it's not necessarily a thought. You cannot think in your head at the exact same time, I'm better than this person, I'm worse than this person. I'm better than this person. It's like a level of complacency is where I perceive it to be. But I understand where you can see that could be both. But that's where I disagree with you. But that's a great question. Thanks again for bringing that up. Give her a round of applause.
All right, we've got another question here. I checked it's a real question. It's a question coming up.
Okay, cool.
What's your biggest takeaway from soccer?
What's my biggest takeaway from soccer? Good question. So for me, my biggest takeaway from soccer, other than learning how to become a better teammate, and about lessons of life, my biggest takeaway was how far and how many countries soccer was able to bring me, or to make me see. I was just last month actually, I was playing beach soccer on the professional plane in Turkey. So I just got back from Turkey last month. So I know, if anybody heard of beach soccer? Anybody, seriously? Okay, good. So it's 5v5 in sand. I was playing with a team out of California. I'm flying to San Diego this coming month again to playing another tournament. So soccer for me has allowed me to see the world through a different perspective, a different lens, with people that I enjoy playing with. So thanks again for your question.
Did you play for the Spurs?
Did I, sorry?
Did you play for the Spurs?
For the Spurs, I did play for the Tottenham Hotspurs, yeah. But they were, so it's an affiliation of. So you saw the jersey, right? Yeah, so it's an affiliation of. I was not in England playing for the Spurs, but it's the same branch off, and it was a team, semi-professional team out of the US.
Okay.
Yep. Anybody else, questions?
We have another minute or two if anybody has any questions
There's some
for this
people there. Here.
world traveler. I haven't done this side of the room yet. And then we're going to wrap it up here.
And what team to go to?
I hope it's a good question if I'm walking all the way over here. This is more exercise than I'm comfortable with.
Coach? And what do you coach? What? Yeah, what kind of question? Okay.
Do you have a boyfriend?
Or I think, wait, did you talk to my mom before this presentation?
No, but do you have any time for like,
To have any time for
yeah.
At the time. Good question, thank you.
So the question was, do you have a boyfriend? Not in a hitting on you kind of way, but do you have time for romantic?
At the moment, I do not have a boyfriend. I don't. Hopefully that'll come. But at the moment, I don't. Thanks.
You got it.
What is your favorite country to visit?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a loaded question. Fun fact, I've visited 27 countries so far. My goal is to get to 100 by the time I kick the bucket. My favorite so far, I think I would have to say Croatia and Switzerland. Two of my really, really favorite ones. Yeah, Croatia and Switzerland. Good question.
So I think that's pretty much all we have for time. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Pellerin. We prepared a little Highlander gift package. So thank you again. Please give her our Highlander appreciation.
Thank you. And again, hey, if I didn't have the time to answer your questions, please feel free to email me or follow me on Instagram, ask me questions. I'm more than happy to answer.
So it's a 5-minute break, then you go to period 1. Some of you have the green sheets. You're getting some extra time with Ms. Arseneault during period 1. So you can take your break and come back here if you have those.